Hi guys, welcome back to the Joe Blumen channel. Today's topic is stats on suicide in men, and it's not really the topic. The topic is more the noise around it. Now I know a little bit about the statistics around this, and because I made a lot of videos about it. Myself, I wouldn't say suffer. I would say it's part of me, but I've got a mental illness. That's what makes me so interesting, I think. I think my wife would disagree with that one, but anyway, let's move along. So I'm going to play a clip quickly for you guys. Firstly, this is a typical pompous leftist asshole trying to win some points with the liberals. Plus, he's obviously one of the black privileged people in the United Kingdom, and he has a lot to say. So let's give it up for the pompous ass.
I'm just wondering which men Nick is really concerned about, because when you look at wealth and influence and power in the society, from the Prime Minister and MPs downwards, the judiciary, the captains of industry, business, the armed forces, everything is dominated by men. It's always been that way. That's why we've needed not 1, 2, 3, but now 4 waves of feminism for women to be able to catch up. Let's remember, 100 or so years ago, women were throwing themselves in front of the king's horse at the Derby in order to say, votes for women. If it hadn't been for the First World War, then we would not have had universal adult suffrage. Women are still being killed by men every week, about 2 to 3. We hear about women suffering, can't even walk freely in the streets at night. That's why we have campaigns called Reclaim the Streets for Women and not for men. So, Nick, I do understand that there are issues with certain groups of young men who've been alienated and left behind, perhaps in constituencies like yours, which have been hollowed out since the Thatcher Revolution of the 80s. But for men in society as a whole, I think you're barking up the wrong tree.
Nick, that is a point, isn't it? That the fight's been on to try and equalise. Why specifically would it be helpful when we're so concerned about safety for women on the streets? Why would it be helpful to have a minister for men to prioritise specifically male issues?
I think there are many issues that men suffer with are due to the fact that they are being left behind, and they feel that they're being left behind. They don't feel valued. Civitas have just done a report and said that 41% of 16 to 18-year-old boys or young men have been told that they're a problem society. We're expecting them to fail before they even start, and when we expect them to fail, then obviously they're going to end up not in a good place. Many young men have turned to crime because of this, and as I say, if we look after men, then we get a happier society for everybody.
Okay, so the pompous asshole goes on basically to say that there are more important things to worry about than the top killer of males under the age of 50 in the UK, which is suicide. They should rather look at campaigns like women walking in dark alleys alone, protecting them. It's because the liberals like that fight death penalty and incarceration and so on, and and hard punishment for criminals that deserve it. And I mean, it's because of them that we're sitting in this dangerous situation where we have all these evil fuckers running around and murdering women and raping women, going on crazy, as well as the fact that they're just importing fuckers. They open the floodgates for every person from a third world country to come in there, just because the skin of their color and for the diversity factor, and these guys have got a different mentality. I mean, I live in South Africa. We were a test case for the rest of the world to see what happens when you mix a bunch of people together. But what they didn't realize is that South Africa has got one thing that we all have in common. It doesn't matter what color we are. We're a sports country. We are sports fanatics. It doesn't matter if you watch or if you've ever played that game in your life before. You'll see probably about 60 to 70% of our country is stuck in front of a TV or just on the radio, just getting excited about the sport, whether or not it's soccer, athletics, rugby, everything. So, and we play international games. So in other words, we're not enemies in our own country, like where you have America, where they're the only country that plays American football. So in other words, what are you doing? You're not playing against other countries. You're literally building competition within your own country. So it's. I know it sounds like a stupid comment that I'm making, but just bear with me. So in other words, you have basketball, you have baseball, and you have football, American football. Okay, those three sports aren't played anywhere else in the world. Maybe one or two small island places decide that they're going to join in and play. And I know the NFL is big, so in other words, basketball is sort of going off in China, I think. That's why they abide by the gods of China, But let's get back to what I was going to talk about in the second place. Okay, so this pompous asshole who's obviously never had challenges in his life. If you can look at his posture, his clothing, his sensitive skin. I mean, you can see the cream a mile away. You can see some what do they call them? The guys that spend more time on makeup than women do. Doesn't necessarily mean he's gay. I mean, I'm talking about metro something. Can't remember. Anyway, just remember one thing. English is not my first language. It's my second language. So if any of you fuckers laugh at me because of the way that I talk, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say what I wanted to say now. Okay, so second one I'm going to play to you now is a very interesting. This guy's written a book that is just released. It's something like that. I don't know him very well, but he seems to be fairly famous. And he wrote a book, basically the normal bloke, a normal English bloke, or something like that, where he discusses all of this male suicide and everything. So they've got him onto the show, and then they have this woman on there attacking him, and you can hear until he sort of backs down and just says basically, well, this is exactly you proving my point for me, then only she starts listening to what he has to say and starts sort of taking in the information. But before then, it's just she doesn't listen. It's just like, well, we have it worse than you, so women have it worse than men, listen to the clip.
During COVID, men were literally more likely to die from COVID. And I don't really want to cast myself as a meninist or one of these guys from the manosphere, because that's not who I am. But I do find it interesting that sometimes the arguments tend to throw it back.
But who was doing all the work during COVID? A lot of the time, if you looked into people's households, it was the women who were taking on the laundry, the school care, all of that.
I'm not disputing any of that. What I'm saying that there are specific issues that men face that might warrant specific attention. I mean, literally, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. That is an arresting statistic. And if that doesn't warrant specific attention, mental health is an umbrella issue.
I have to say that it's also because women are unsuccessful. That is a lot of that feeds into that statistic.
But it feels like, it just doesn't feel like you've got any space for this idea that men might have unique challenges that face them.
Okay, so I don't know what you guys think about that, but, you know, I found it pretty disturbing that she took so long to grasp that the fact that all the, you know, the magnitude of the problem that they're sitting with in the UK, where the murder rate, biggest suicide is the biggest form of or killer of men in the UK. So I want to go through an article here, stats on suicide. You'll see that's in there. It's headsupguys.org is the website's name. If you guys want to go read some more about it. Key statistics around suicide and depression. Almost 800,000 people die due to suicide every year. Nearly twice the number who die by homicide. Okay, that's bad. So now the more people kill themselves than people kill other people. For every death by suicide, there's approximately 20 suicide attempts made. Okay, so this is where things get a bit muffly, because, and you'll understand why I'm saying this, I do believe that there are people out there that attempt suicide to look for attention, or to try and reach out or get somebody to, listen to them, or give them, not just attention-seeking people. They are the attention-seeking people, but the people that don't know how to ask for help but need help. And I always think of this one where, the woman would take a bunch of pills, try sleeping pills to commit suicide, then pick up the phone and phone their best friend and say, "Bye, I just drank pills and I'm killing myself." And then the ambulance would rush over and, pump her stomach, and then she's okay. I saw it in a movie once, and it's stuck in my head. Now, my wife gets very upset with me because, and I never knew why. It's because I said when I do something, I do it properly. If I were to do something like that, I would take a gun and shoot my fucking brains out, make sure that it's done properly. And that only came out like 5 years ago, that this, what I said, affected her, and that's why she doesn't want me to have a gun in the house, or have a gun, because of what I said, So we must be careful what we say, especially on YouTube. Each death by suicide leaves behind a community of bereaved family, friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. For every death by suicide, at least 7 to 10 people are directly affected by the loss. Research shows that mental illness is the most popular risk factor for suicide. More than 90% of people who die by suicide struggle with their mental health and or addiction. Research estimates that up to 60% of people who die by suicide have major depression. I'm not sure if they put it in the article over here, but I'm not going to go into that. The global disparity in suicide rates between men and women is a well-documented phenomenon, with men consistently exhibiting higher rates. This disparity is attributed to complex interplay or many factors. No, it's not complicated factors. You are blaming men for everything that is wrong in society. At some point, they will be either killing themselves or retaliating in a manner in which you don't want them to retaliate. I mean, I can see all of the men moving to some island and leaving society so they can run themselves into the... Yeah. While men tend to use more lethal weapons like suicide, like hanging and firearms, they are more likely to die during any attempt, meaning that it is not the method alone that explains the vast difference in suicide rates between men and women. Other factors such as alcohol use, severity of underlying illness, loneliness and shame must be considered as contributing factors to elevate that suicide rates among men. Together, these findings highlight the need for targeted interventions and public health initiatives to address the unique challenges faced by men in relation to suicide risks. So this is why this MP has gone and said that there is a need for this. Not based on this article, but based on research that was done, which is the company that he mentioned there, or the research company that he actually raised there. I actually had their site up, but rebooted my machine, so I lost it. So in Canada, 3 out of every 4 suicides is men. In the UK, three times more than women. In the USA, sadly enough, 4 times higher than females. In Canada, suicide is the second leading cause of death for men under the age of 50. UK, suicide is the single largest cause of death over men under the age of 50. In the USA, suicide is the second most common cause of death for men under the age of 45. Yeah, so now what you must remember is the studies that is taken is actually countries that is real statistics. So it's not a where they take 1,000 instances and work it per 100,000 or per capita. It's an actual real statistic that comes from doctors, hospitals, psychiatrists, morgues, those kinds of things, and also the health, national health services that they have. So there's a problem, and people like these 2 video clips that I just showed you, they don't help the situation. So this is something to think about very hardly, and if you guys need help, if there are guys that watch this video, please reach out to somebody. I mean, there's lots of people that will be willing to help. You'll be surprised how many people feel exactly the way that you feel. Cheers. See you later.